Hello everybody and welcome to VFR. Today we are looking at why you should fly the Savage Carbon and the Savage Cub by extension. These are a couple of cool bush planes that we're going to be looking at and taking them out for a little spin and doing a little bit of stick and rudder flying. So before we hop in, let's do a little bit of a disambiguation, if that's a word. So this is the Savage Carbon, which is a mod by Got Gravel, which is basically an improvement of the Zlin Savage Cub, which comes with the default Microsoft Flight Simulator and another bush plane. It is one of the Piper Cub derivatives with steam gauges, and if you're looking at it right now, smaller tires. So based on the Piper Cub, which is really this basic format for airplanes, is ancient. It goes back a very long way. And Piper Cub's really for some of the first mass market general aviation airplanes. And this basic format is, again, really unchanged, except for materials and engine components, stuff like that. But the basic design of the airframe is, again, pretty close to the original. Now, there's lots of features that they've tacked onto the Cub to get to the Zlin Savage Cub to make it better for bush flying. Now, it lists in the wiki a max speed of 100 knots, cruising at about 90 knots, so it's not a particularly fast airplane. You have a range of about 350 miles. So again, this is a very lightweight airplane designed for VFR and bush flying. Now, Got Gravel is a developer for flight sim add-ons. They've done a lot of stuff, including the Vertigo. There's a Savage Gravel, which is basically like this, I think, with bigger tires. But we're flying the Savage Carbon today, which comes with, from their flightsim.to page, 29-inch Alaskan bush wheels, so these wheels in front of us. You have a 165 horsepower engine. You can configure for water skiing, I think. And you have an 82-inch Whirlwind GA200L STOL propeller. Wider wheelbase, King shock absorbers and upgraded suspension down there. You got powerful disc brakes. You can do a bunch of different airbag maneuvers. You also have the ability to use flaperons using 25% aileron as a flap configuration. So the big thing you see, we've got big tires, upgraded engine, some upgraded components for bush flying, and it lets us get real slow, and it really lowers the stall speed quite a bit, and really configures us for landing in tough places. The final thing we should note before we get in, we are here at the Got Gravel Academy. This is also available on flightsim.to. I've been exploring it over the last couple days. It's really cool, really fun. I am not a big bush pilot. This is really some of my first exposure really to seriously looking at bush flying. So this is a really great resource, especially if you're coming in cold and don't know really anything about bush flying. So welcome into the cockpit of the Savage Gravel. Again, steam gauge version of the airplane. So you're going to have all your main instruments and dials up here. Again, it's very simple. Startup is extremely simple. And it's just a very manual airplane. Now, we are going to be using the GTN 750 for GPS. It comes with a pop-up window that you can pull up in the sim. Well, power's off now, but if I turn power on, it'll turn up with the GPS system, basically a pop-out window of the GPS that you would have installed in the airplane. I look at this as like using it on an iPad or something. So that'll help us with our navigation a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and get all set up, and then we'll talk about what we're going to be doing today. Alright, so we're pulled up here at the STOL strip, marked by the two Canadian flags in front of us. Now, we're going to be taking off down towards the south end of the, quote, runway. It's just really a grass field. And we're going to be heading south out to Anvil Island. So we pull up our trusty GPS. Flight plan, just basically we're going out to Anvil Island, Papa Zulu 43. And then we'll land there. We might land at a couple more strips out towards the mouth of the bay. And then we will come on back up to Squamish here. Pretty simple flight. Shouldn't be very long. It's about, I think, 10-15 miles away. Now, we are in a tail dragger airplane, so that is one consideration when we're taking off. It's a fun consideration. Yeah, you get this with the GA airplanes too if you're landing on other GA airplanes that are tail draggers, if you're landing on hard surfaces. But basically, we just need to do a lot more hands-on control to keep it straight generally. So we'll be working using our rudder and even a little bit of aileron to keep ourselves straight until we lift off. We're not going to use any flaps today because this isn't a true, I mean, it'll still be pretty short takeoff, but it's not a true short competition short takeoff. Squamish traffic, Savage 545, Juliet Whiskey. We are going to be taking off on the STOL runway heading south, departing to the south, Squamish. All right, so let's line it up, and then we'll get started. Now we do have a bit of a crosswind, based on the windsock. But it's gently blowing in our direction. Now again, we're not going to do any flaps. We're just basically going to, I'm going to advance the power. I'm not going to go full power just to keep it a little bit better controlled. We have plenty of space out in front of us. If we hit the end of this marked area and we're not off the ground, we'll probably hit the brakes and come to a stop, and we'll try it again. Bringing the power forward. A little bit of right rudder. And the tail wheel is off the ground. That was about 80% power. Adding a little more as we climb out. That's about it. We're going to clear the power lines just off our right. And we're now heading out. We'll do a lap just to see, just to show off some of the STOL course. It is a lot of fun. Again, on flightsim.to, I will link it in the description. But you have a bunch, there's a little campground, you have a nice workshop in there, there's a few decorated hangars, really great scenery, and you have, again, a few STOL fields for practicing as well as a paved runway. And then out in the river, you can see there's some pylons for an air racing course. And then the other thing is there are a bunch of airstrips scattered around this area within 10-15 miles that you can go land at. You can go up the river. There's a few. They include in the download a list of them, as well as a little nav map list, which I am using. There are a few dependencies, but if you have a few freeware sceneries, you might have a few of them already. And we'll fly back over the field. So a great place, especially if you have a bunch of friends who want to bush fly and you want to have some competitions. That's why all that is marked up, to test how well you can land. I think there's a STOL drag race course as well below us, where you essentially try to take off and then land again in as short a time as possible. So we're going to cruise out here over British Columbia, head out to Anvil Island, and then, yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about bush flying. So we are here out over Squamish Harbor, heading basically out towards Vancouver in another, I don't know, 15-20 miles. Now, the island is the one with mountains, or that one larger mountain right off in front of us. We're going to be landing at a small beach on the eastern side. I have a couple pictures of it. So they give you, with the scenery, a few pictures of the approaches to these smaller strips, which helps you obviously find them, among other things. but also gives you a little bit of an idea of what to expect. So it's right along the water. And it's not that long. So we will do, when we get in, we will do a low pass over it, figure out which way we need to land from, and then we will go ahead and land. Now, airplanes like this are not very fast, and bush flying is not really about traversing long distances as much as it is about the landing and the takeoff, getting in and out of tricky places. And it really is quite the art. But if you come from something like the airliners, or even just flying general aviation at smaller airports, it's probably a little unsettling to come into a small dirt runway with no charts or anything. You know, many of these strips are uncharted, where really your only information is you're looking at the windsock and you're looking with your Mark 1 eyeball. So it is very, very different from the airliner experience, where that is attention to detail in terms of charts, procedures. This really isn't so much procedures and systems as it is understanding your airplane and how it flies, and we're going to use the stick and rudder skills are very important here for this kind of airplane. And that, I think, is the big draw, is learning how your airplane performs and being able to do these things in a sim relatively safely. Now, there's a lot of tricks and a lot of nuances to that, and there are a lot of interesting challenges, but it is definitely a different flavor of flying. A lot more hands-on, a lot more manual, and that is very fun from time to time. It's about the most manual thing I think you'll get, short of a combat flight simulator, and even that, you use a lot of autopilots, so it's right up there with a combat flight simulator in terms of pilot workload, but in this, it's a lot on the landings and takeoffs. So we do have a ship out in the sea, and I believe that is our strip. So I'm just going to come straight over it. First, we'll loop back around to the left, get a better look at it, and then figure out which way we're coming in. And I think we're going to come in from the... We'll come in landing west towards the mountain. Looks like someone's got an icon down there. And there's the windsock. It looks like the wind is a little out of the west. Clear the trees. We'll just make a lazy loop around, and then we'll kind of do a mock approach. We'll fly low. We won't touch down, but I just want to fly in, see what we're going to be looking at. The big thing approaching from the way we're going to approach is that mountain is right in front of us, so we're going to have to break off to our right if anything happens at all. You do get good visibility in this cockpit. It is just a very pleasing, very simple exercise. I liken it to, it feels like, the most thing it feels like to me that's a wonky highway. It feels a lot like playing golf. Not that I play a lot of golf. But the way you set up your approaches, the way you set up your landings, the way you try to figure out the best way to approach a tricky airstrip like this, where we're not going to have a lot of visibility coming in from the west. It does have that feeling of standing next to a caddy, talking about, okay, well, if we hook it this way, we might be okay, or we might be able to squeeze it this way. There's that kind of planning out your shot. So we're coming in. This is tricky because of the terrain here. We may need to do kind of a curving approach out over the water. This may end horribly, horribly wrong. I haven't actually tried this. This might be above my skill level. But that is another thing they talk about that kind of scares me as the airliner pilot in me. Doing a manual curving approach, and there are a lot. It's a lot more free form. If I can do this, I'm going to be pretty proud of myself. We're going to just head and start losing a little bit of speed. I'm going to give it 1 knock of flaps. I mean, this thing is going to fly down to 40 knots, even into 30 before you really stall it out. My goal is to do a nice 3-point landing with no bounces, but we got these big tires on, so it is a little bit harder to do a really, really smooth landing. So you come back off the power a little bit more. We're at 80 knots. We really need to be down in the 60 to 50 range, probably. Now, once we get on the ground, we will stop very quickly. This doesn't seem like a very good place for a landing strip. Alright, we're full flaps. Now this turn is going to be very... We have to be very careful, because if you turn too hard, you're going to spin. And if you spin, well, in this case, we probably die. That's a tree, very close. So we're at 40 knots right now. Might get a little wet, but... Tree! Well, we made it. That's pretty good. It's not pretty good as far as... all the real bush pilots watching this are laughing at me. But we're not messing around, and they're the jumping dolphins. A neat place to fly into. Getting out should be quite a bit easier. Bring flaps up. But yeah, that's, again, it's a little bit like golf. Maybe even mini golf on this one. Trying to get around the obstacles and land. With a little bit of practice, I could do it. The real testament to why this is fun is I want to go do that again. And the scenery, again, this scenery is really great, especially if you're like me, someone who hasn't done a lot of bush flying. You're not really sure where to start. This Got Gravel scenery pack, I think, is a really great way to get your feet wet bush flying like this. I've always been someone, when Neofly tells me to go land in someone's backyard, I groan. But this is really fun. So I'm gonna take a breather, I'm gonna get a drink of water, and we are then gonna set up, flying back to the academy, and land on up. Okay, so just stepped out to take a look at where we're gonna be heading out. I think we're gonna take off the way we came in. We're gonna head down there and take off and then come right over the water. I think we're gonna come around and try it again, because that was a lot of fun. And I'm already Still thinking about how we can do it a little bit better. Maybe if we hug the coastline more coming in. I think we're probably a little high. Let's give it a shot. And for this one, we're going to go flaps. Probably give it 2 knocks. We'll just light it all up. So obviously terrain off our nose, so we're going to come right basically immediately, but we should be able to get up in the air pretty soon. So we're coming out. So little right rudder, tails off. We're off. Coming right. Flaps up. And we'll stay pretty low and come around and do that again. Yeah, so I think the trick is just going to be to hug the contours of that hill pretty low around. So I'm going to actually basically start our run in a little further out. And this time if we bounce, we're going to go around. We'll give full power and come off to the right like we took off. And we're basically be at treetop level. Try this. We'll get 1 knock of flaps. Two, three. And once we clear this tree here, we're going to come right. Here. That's tricky. Nope, lost it. So what happened there? We got into a pretty nasty situation coming down. I don't think I was recording that one, but almost spun and basically stalled out on the turn. So a little more, I guess a little more speed. Don't pull the throttle as early. We'll try one more time. I'm glad this is the sim. I wouldn't play around like this in real life. But it is good fun. Alright, we'll give 2 knocks flaps. Just bring the power up. I'm not going full power all the way initially just because it helps control a little bit better. And we'll come off to the right to avoid the trees. We'll basically do the same thing. that real sharp final turn that is tricky. So we're down to 50 knots. We'll begin swooping. Not aggressive, I'm not pulling on anything. Now we're here. And you gotta be real gutsy to get it in tight there. Hope it doesn't hit the tree that crashes me. So anyway, good fun. Good fun. Not very elegant, but you can get with some practice, time in the airplane, you can get very good at this kind of thing. And this is a pretty advanced strip to come into. I was expecting a real straight in. We're gonna do what we did last. We're gonna come on up and take back off and head back to base. We're coming up on a new... So Offerlow knows we have another strip included in the package. 241 sandbars. This is a strip on a sandbar. A lot less terrain around us. So another fun thing to try. I'm going to try and redeem myself after the last crash. This is square on our way home. We're heading just up the valley. So we'll give it a shot. We're going to come in, just give it a nice low pass on this island here. Looks like someone's down there. And I think we're going to loop around and come in from this side. So we're going to do a low pass. We're not going to touch down, but we're going to get pretty low. Then we'll come off to the left and do in our left pattern to land. So we have a tent. And we have the windsock, and there's another windsock on one of the islands coming in off our right, so don't get that confused with the runway. Turn up the valley, get eyes on the island, and start thinking about some flaps. And we'll let the airspeed keep coming down. Give it another knock of flaps as we come around. There's the strip. And we'll go full approach flaps and give it a little power to keep it in the air. And we do have to thread it between the tent and the windsock. That's really our only constraint here. The wind's still generally in our favor. And this would be a much better entry-level bush approach. And we'll slam on the brakes, and we're down. And you could camp here for the night, but we're going to get on our way, head back home. Takeoff, we got lots of room. I'm not going to worry about too much flaps. We'll give one knock. We're going to advance full power, and then we're just going to kind of come off to our right so we're not over the town. So there's some power. Tail is up. And we're away. Flaps coming up. And we'll keep trucking up the valley and get ready to head back to the academy. But that's a much better, if you're looking for your first bush flight, that would be a much better choice of landing site than Anvil Island. Okay, so we can see the main strip, the main runway, off our nose. We're going to come in on the STOL strip, which is the same direction, just off to the left of that. So we'll call it in. Squash traffic, Savage Cub, 5 Whiskey Foxtrot is coming to land on the STOL strip from the north. Full stop. Squamish. Squash traffic, Cub, 5 Whiskey Foxtrot is left downwind to land, run on the STOL strip, heading south, full stop, Squamish. It's a little high, but we can bleed that pretty easily. We'll give it a little bit of flap, come back on the power, and start circling around. And as the flaps kick in, we'll give it a little more power. There's the strip. Squamish traffic, Cub, 5 Whiskey Foxtrot is final land on the STOL strip. Squamish. So we're at about 50 knots. It's 40 right there. That's a bounce. Ooh, not quite before the red line. So again, I don't proclaim to be a bush pilot in any way, shape, or form. But if I'm probably more like some people who haven't tried bush flying before. So hopefully this is helpful. We're gonna taxi on up, and then we'll wrap this thing out. So, we made it back to the Got Gravel Academy with a, well, minimum of incidents. But yeah, it's really fun. This is the Savage Carbon. It's available on flightsim.to for free. It's a free upgrade to the base Savage Cub. And it's a lot of fun. So, really fun plane to fly. It's dead simple. You can hop in and fly. You don't have to learn a whole lot of systems. And you can go fly into really interesting airports. I think the big challenge with bush flying, or part of the challenge, is finding where to fly and finding where to land more appropriately. And that's why this scenery is, I highly recommend it if you're at all interested in bush flying. It gives you kind of a little bit of a playground to go play in, and some slightly predefined places to go fly. I don't recommend Anvil Island for your first time, because that was a little harder than I thought it was going to be. But the sandbar was good and easy. So it's a lot of fun, and it's just a different discipline of flying than, say, the airliners. Not to say one is better than the other, because I think both have a lot of fun aspects. And yeah, you're allowed to like two things. So if you like airliners, you might still like bush flying on occasion. So definitely give it a try, give it a thought. And yeah, if you just want to get some stick and rudder time, really, really highly recommend this. Again, all on flightsim.to. I will link it in the description below. And yeah, all very excited for some of the stuff upcoming. We got Reno Air Races coming up. Hopefully we got a 737 coming up down the line. So a lot of cool things happening in the sim. But bush flying, I think we'll do some more of that on the channel, because it is fun. And I think Flight Sim really shines at those VFR bush flying altitudes. So lots of fun. If you have any questions, comments, ideas for other planes to take out and try out, leave them in the comments section below. As always, this has been BFR. Take it easy, y'all.